Welcome to Home and Healing, the podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Ewers, and today we are talking about paternal postpartum depression. You guys, I had a conversation with someone and they were like, I didn't know that that's real. Like that, how does that happen? Let's face it, when you have a new baby, it is a new job, it is a new identity, it is a whole new level of responsibility, and your life changes. We've looked at postpartum depression in women for many, many years. Do we talk about it enough? No. Do doctors screen for it? Most of the time, yes. If you take parenting classes, they will usually have a little bit of information. If you go through in vitro fertilization, they usually will have some information. But it's not something that someone is always looking out for. And for a long time, we didn't know if it was like if there was a precursor to it. So if someone had depression, that they were more likely to experience postpartum depression. And a lot of that comes down to the accessibility of mental health services and the comfortability of people wanting to talk about it. So there's a lot of pieces that go into this research and to get the numbers right. And if we're not talking about it, if we don't know what to look for, and people are not feeling safe that they can share this information, then our numbers are really not accurate. Our numbers are actually really low. And we already know that 1 in 7, some studies will say 1 in 10, women will suffer from postpartum depression. And postpartum depression is different from the baby blues. The baby blues are the first 2 weeks. That's when we're trying to adjust to the new normal. And 1 in 4 men will experience baby blues. So let's talk about how postpartum depression is not just affecting the mother, and it's not just hormonal changes that are causing postpartum depression as a whole. Okay, so when we're talking about women, we are talking about the hormonal changes. We are talking about how maybe there's a history of depression and anxiety, and so the hormone changes will intensify what already exists. And so we want to treat that as it is postpartum depression. Okay. And so then we go forward and we think, okay, well, how does this affect men? Like, why are we calling this paternal postpartum depression? Okay. When you were taking on a new job, when you're taking on a new role, when you're taking on a new identity, all of these things, they are significant changes. And I'll just say it, when you are going through something big, something monumental, it can feel like trauma. And trauma is not, I say this loosely and not to downplay anyone's trauma, but to have a significant life event can feel traumatic for people, okay? And so that's what we're looking at when we're looking at paternal postpartum depression, because they will exhibit all the things that we identify with depression. Okay, so that's when we are, not being social, when we're self-isolating, okay, not wanting to engage with others, sleeping more, not eating well. It can also show up as apathy, where we're just not, feeling empathetic to our partner. It could look like sometimes substance abuse. It could look like overeating. It could look like irritability. And so these are the things that we look for. And a lot of times it will affect the relationship because the woman's over here dealing with her own hormone fluctuations and will say, hey, why is my partner not supporting me? Why is my partner shutting down? I thought if we had a baby, it would help things. Okay? This is a significant life event and it can be traumatic for men, just as it can be traumatic for women. Now, the elements that women are dealing with, they are going to deal more with the hormonal changes that are happening within her body, the brain chemistry, all of the things that are changing within her body. Men, it's much more difficult to diagnose, and it has a longer effect on men than it does for women. And I think because women are more empowered to talk about how they feel, to understand the changes, and to be able to say, this doesn't feel right. They're going to their doctor. They're having those conversations. And men are, traditionally speaking, they're going to work. They're doing the thing. Not a lot changes physically for them when the baby comes, but the responsibility becomes much greater. Now, another element that plays into this as well as something that we don't talk about is how the mother and baby bond in the beginning. So mom and baby are going to have an increase in their oxytocin levels when they are in the nurture state. So that means like if the baby cries and mom comes and attends to the baby and the baby feels safe, that's that bonding, nurturing time. So you notice sometimes when mom will pick up the baby, she's like, oh, they're there. They're there. Mama's here, right? That calm, soothing voice. And then the baby will calm down. Then they've met each other with an increase in oxytocin levels. That doesn't necessarily happen with men. Men are just wired differently. And so for men will have more of a response with play. So you'll notice moms don't want to throw baby in the air. They're like, oh no, because we are nurture. And dads are play. And you can see baby is giggling. Baby loves to bounce on dad's lap. Dad likes to make silly faces. And baby responds. And dad and baby both have an increase in their oxytocin levels. So there's a lot that goes into how we're feeling, how we're dealing, how we're adjusting. Because not just the roles and responsibilities, but also the physical, mental, and emotional changes that are happening within our bodies. So for men, if men are showing signs of withdrawal, not sleeping, not interacting, having the apathy, having maybe drinking more than they used to, or beginning to drink, and they're just showing that those signs of irritability, then they definitely need to have a conversation with someone. They need to reach out for that support. They need to talk about how they're feeling. Now, I know when I moved to a new area and I had 2 small children, I reached out and I found a mom's club. You don't see a lot about that with men. And so I'm happy to share with you that I am starting a community for men. I will also be offering some virtual options for those of you that don't live nearby that need to also have that community for yourself. I am going to bring men together. I want them to bring their babies. I want them to talk about their children. I want them to be able to express their frustrations. I want them to be able to express, how they're feeling. If their partner is suffering from postpartum depression, they are much more likely to also have it. Half of men that, if their partner is suffering from postpartum depression, half of those, their partners will also experience a level of postpartum depression. So, and that's a whole energy exchange that's happening right there. Okay? If your partner's depressed, you can't help them. It's bringing down the mood. Like they say, your mood affects the room. And so partners will absorb that. We need to give men a space to talk about it, just as much as we need to give women more of an empowerment to share what they're also going through. We need to talk about it. We need to talk about postpartum depression and how it affects men and how it affects women. How do we look for it? How do we treat it? Where are these resources? So I hope that you'll continue tuning in. I'm going to start bringing in some professionals to talk about this a little bit more in depth and sharing more resources with you along the way. So thank you for tuning in. If you are local, if you are around the Twin Cities, Minnesota area, on July 31st in Lakeville, Minnesota, we are going to have our Fatherhood on Tap, our social event, and that is a free event to attend. It's at 6 p.m. Angry Inch Brewery in downtown Lakeville. You can find it on my website. You can also find it on Eventbrite, Facebook. And stay tuned for the virtual options. Everything will be shared with you here. And on our next episode, I'm going to be sharing with you how you can leave your family equipped. How you can ensure that your legacy is protected in case something unfortunate were to happen. Let's be prepared. Let's be vigilant. Let's look out for one another. And thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and find me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Thank you so much. Have a good day.